Slumpbuster.
Quiet on the set, make sure my mic is on. Aris, Dre, and Juju Dog diving towards the pylon. Go for two, so damn rude, recognize authority. Spitting tips for fantasy, no way you're outscoring me. Bold predictions with conviction every single day. Sports addiction, no restriction, kicking game like Pele. He's the greatest, what's the basis? Pick an athlete, let's debate this game. Outrageous trading places, sudden death, take 10 paces. Turn and shoot, boys the truth, Mamba mentality. Future greats take their place, dreams become reality. Low and outside, knocked it out the park. Your boy discovered fire like a rock with a spark. Refs acting like Neanderthals, phantom flags, nothing calls. Heartbreak losses, tragic falls, every week discuss it all. Settle in, listen up, free your time like Andrew Luck. Show's about to start, I suggest you buckle up.
As always, I am Fantasy Aristotle, and I am here to break down week 2 of the NFL. That had a lot of news, a lot of big injuries. I don't know what it was about this week, but there was a bunch of them. Christian McCaffrey, Devontae Adams, Saquon Barkley is going to be the biggest one. The Niners defense decimated by terrible turf there in New York. So we'll see how that plays out. They are going to be protesting the field, trying to get something changed. I don't know. We'll see where that leads in the next couple of days. But they are going to be back in New York playing the Giants. So I don't know how they feel about that. Let's just go ahead and get down into it. So we're going to break down top 10 of the season and top 10 of this week. Start off with the quarterbacks. Russell Wilson was the #1 passer last week. This is going to be PPR, and I'll get all my stuff from Yahoo because it is the most popular of the platforms. So that's why we're going to go with Yahoo, and PPR is going to be the most popular. If you're still in standard, what the hell are you doing with your life? At least get half-point PPR, something, because man, PPR is where it's at. But Russ finished #1 last week. Game is still currently going now, so we can't really see, but it's trending to be a top 5 finish for him. Aaron Rodgers finished 2nd last week. This week he finished 14, but there really wasn't nothing for him to do. The run game was just so killer for the Packers against Detroit today, so he really didn't have to do much. Josh Allen was QB3, and just like my rankings had it, finished 1st. So go Aris on his birthday, because Josh Allen finished #1, and I could see that happening again next week. He gets the Rams, could be another top 10, even top 5 finish for this man again. Lamar finished 4th last week, and this week he finished 17th. Again, not much for him to do as they had that game well in hand. Matt Ryan finished 5. This week he finished 3. Mitch finished 6th, surprisingly. And this week he finished 20. Kyler finished 7th last week. He finished 6th this week. Got the dog. Sorry, we're in an apartment, guys. Not much I can do about that. So we'll get an occasional appearance from the dogs. Big Ben finished 8th and finished 13th on this week. Gardner Minshew finished 9th last week, 8th this week. Gets Miami next week, so he can get another top 10 finish. This guy's going to be streaming darling next week. Mahomes finished 10th last week, and unfortunately 5th against my Chargers this week. So rough game, but man, was that good. Yeah, it was just such a close game. Got to tip the hat to Justin Herbert, who killed it in his first start. We'll get talking about him a little bit later on in the show. So this week, top performers for quarterbacks. Of course, like I said, Josh Allen finished 1st with a absurd 45 points, 400 yards passing, 3 touchdowns. I think he had 1 rushing as well. He gets the Rams next week, so that's a pretty good matchup. They're about middle of the road on defense against quarterbacks, so expect another big finish for him. If you're starting him, continue to start him, with some confidence. #2 this week was Dak, 450 yards and 3 rushing touchdowns. First time that's ever happened in NFL history, so that's pretty cool. He is going to get Seattle, which is about a middle of the road defense. They are currently getting, they've got 20 points on Cam. Cam's doing pretty good passing. So Seattle, Matt Ryan finished 5th against Seattle last week. So I can see Dak having another good game, especially in a possible shootout like it was this week for Dallas. Expect the big numbers from him again next week. Matt Ryan finished 3rd, he gets Chicago. I do like Matt Ryan and the weapons that he has, and this is a even year, so Matt Ryan's going to do good. Continue to start him with confidence. Tannehill gets 4th place this week. He does get Minnesota. Minnesota's defense has been pretty terrible this year. He had 4 touchdowns this week against Jacksonville. I can see him throwing a couple more next week against Minnesota, so he's going to be a QB1 next week as well. Number 5, like I said earlier, was Patrick Mahomes. He does get Baltimore, which really hasn't faced a really good quarterback. I mean, they did play Houston this week, but Houston really doesn't look like Houston of last year. They look a little off. They're still trying to find their groove without DeAndre Hopkins trying to feed the ball to David Johnson. So they really haven't faced a offense like Mahomes and Kansas City. So still expect some pretty Mahomesy numbers. He's going to be right around the 25 to 30 points mark next week against Baltimore. But Mahomes is a set it and forget it guy. Kyler Murray against Detroit. Next year he finished 6th this week, 7th last week. That rookie to sophomore year jump was extremely prevalent. He's been killing it. Last year he kind of came on slow. End of the year he finished really well. Kyler is going to continue to get it. Detroit's defense has been smoked 2 weeks in a row now. Kyler's going to have another top 10 finish, maybe even a top 5. We will see as stuff kind of progresses throughout the week. Joe Burrow gets number 7. The rookie looks really good. He looks like he's going to be in this league for quite a while. He looks a lot better than Baker did. If AJ Green could catch the damn ball, 13 targets, only 3 catches, drop touchdown, Burrow would have had a bigger week. He gets Philly next week, which is about, bottom middle half of the league for against opposing quarterbacks. So probably not a top 10 finish for Burrow again next week. Probably a high-end QB2, especially somebody you should have as a 2 quarterback or a super flex league. Definitely have him in your lineups. Minshew got number 8 this week. He is facing Miami next week, so I like that matchup. Josh Allen had 400 yards and 4 total touchdowns against him, so Minshew's a lot like him play style wise, so look for him to have a good game. Fitzmagic finished 9th. He's playing Jacksonville. Look what Tannehill was able to do against them. Philip Rivers week 1 still had a pretty decent game against him as well, or against Jacksonville as well, so look for him to be flirting with QB1 numbers, but I'd probably slot him more as a QB2 than Jared Goff. Finished 10th this week. He does get Buffalo next week. Buffalo does have a pretty stout defense. So I don't really like him as a QB1. I like him more as a QB2. Again, super flex option as well for 2 QB leagues.
This is a message brought to you by the Foundation for a Perfect Package.
Why do I need Manscaped?
Why do I need Manscaped?
Why do I need Manscaped?
Because the only frill I want is the one up top.
Because being in a relationship is not an excuse to be lazy.
Because I like talking ball, not smelling like them.
Because deforestation is proven to prevent forest fires.
Manscaped is the only brand dedicated to below-the-waist grooming.
Manscaped's Crop Preserver guarantees that you smell your best all day long.
Manscaped Boxer Briefs are the most comfortable underwear on the market.
Manscaped's advanced skincare technology makes nicks a thing of the past.
Manscaped is the #1 in men's grooming. Subscribers get 2 free blade refills every 3 months. Get 20% off plus free shipping and handling with the promo code SLUMP at manscaped.com. That's the promo code SLUMP at manscaped.com. Get your lawnmower 3.0 today.
We are the Slumpbusters.
And we approve this message.
So we'll go ahead and switch down into the running backs now. Josh Jacobs finished #1 last week. He's still pending. He plays on Monday night. Christian McCaffrey finished 4th, even though he left the game with an injury, but we'll get to that here in a little bit. He did finish 4th overall this week. Zeke finished 3rd last week, 8th this week. He's going to have top 10 finishes damn near every week. Nyheim Hines. Oh, this guy. 4th in the running back rankings last week. #1 waiver priority. Fab bucks galore for this guy. finished 73rd with 1 touch. Oh God, that's terrible. Jonathan Taylor utterly took over this backfield. Game script was in Taylor's favor. It's going to be in his favor again next week when they play the Jets. So Nyheim Hines, hold on to him. Game script will come into factor for him, especially in PPR leagues. Just next week, just put him on your bench. Sorry you spent so much money on him. Sorry you should number 1 waiver priority on him. This is what it is, guys. Malcolm Brown finished 5th last week, 51st this week. With Cam Akers going down, you would think that he would have had a bigger week, but Darnell Henderson actually took over and out-touched him and out-gained him this week as well. So look for Darnell Henderson moving forward for this Rams backfield until Cam Akers comes back healthy. He did exit with a rib injury. So we'll see when reports come out on Monday what that looks like. Raheem Mostert finished 6th last week, 14 this week. He didn't even play the second half. They were playing somebody other than the Jets. Maybe he would have gone out there, but he does have a slight MCL sprain. We'll see on Monday when he goes in for the MRI how severe it is and if you actually do need to worry about him if you're an owner. We'll get into that a little bit later on the waiver wire ads. Chris Carson and Alvin Kamara, 7 and 8 respectively. And those are both pending as the games are still either needs to be played or finished up. CEH finished 9th last week, 23rd this week. The Chargers' run defense is so much better than it was last year. They stuff Joe Mixon. This week, CEH. Next week, they get run CMC possibly. Dalvin Cook finished 10th last week, 15th this week. That game was just out of hands, so they didn't really get much work. Now, in this week, Aaron Jones finished 1st, 168 rushing yards, 68 receiving yards, and 3 total touchdowns. Man, did work. Next week, he gets New Orleans in a shutout, so look for that to continue trend-wise for him receiving and running as he tries to get an extension. He's going to play out of his mind. Fournette finished 2nd. He does get Denver next week. Denver, week 1, they stopped Derrick Henry. Week 2, they had a 100-yard rusher in James Conner. That backfield is still, kind of here and there. He did out-touch the other 2 running backs because the game script was in their favor, so I feel like he's going to be more of a game script player. So slot him in as a RB2, RB3 moving forward. Nick Chubb finished 3rd. He gets Washington next week. Washington's front 7 is pretty good. They are, I believe, 1st in the league right now in rush yards allowed to running backs. So look for that number for Chubb to reduce a little bit, and maybe Hunt with pass catching, since they're using him more as a pass catcher than Chubb as a running back. Look for Hunt to be the better running back in that backfield next week, but Chubb still to be a RB2. Christian McCaffrey, like I said, finished 4th. We kind of already touched on him. Touched on Kareem Hunt, finished 5th already. James Robinson, undrafted rookie, has been tearing up the league right now. He finished 6th. He gets Miami next week, so look for a workload for him and a top 10 finish for him as well next week. James Conner finished 7th this week. He gets Houston next week. Houston is about middle of the pack defense. James Conner is never out of game script because he can catch the ball out of the backfield. But look for his workload to get a little bit heavier next week because Benny Snell Jr. did have a fumble. Tomlin does like to punish his players for on-field issues. If you fumble, don't catch the ball, have some bad drops or whatever, he does take it out on you and you lose touches and stuff like that. So look for James Conner to have a little bit better week next week, catching and running the ball. Zeke again finished 8th. He gets Seattle in a possible shootout. I like this matchup. Look for him to have another top 10 finish. He has more top 10 finishes than any other running back since he entered the league. Also, he's going to finish top 10, top 12 really for the whole season, pretty much every year. So he's a set it and forget it guy. Again, Jonathan Taylor, we already touched on him. He finished 9th. He gets the Jets next week. Look what the Niners were able to do with their 2nd and 3rd string running backs. Even their 1st string running back before he went out with an injury. Jonathan Taylor, this matchup with this offensive line is just going to destroy the Jets. So look for him to have another top 10 finish. David Montgomery finished 10th. They do get Atlanta. So look for him to be more of a RB2. He could float with RB1 status, but RB priority to look for that to be probably where he slates. That offense is kind of up and down. He did have a receiving touchdown on a pretty long pass, so that's good that they're giving him pass opportunities and not Tariq Cohen. On to receivers, my favorite position, because this is what I used to play. Devontae Adams finished one last week and finished 71st this week. He was limited with a hamstring injury. And again, if it was anybody other than Detroit, he probably would have gone back out there. But since pretty much the game was out of hand the whole second half, why even worry about getting your star player hurt? Calvin Ridley finished second last week. He finishes first this week, and they get Chicago. I do like that matchup. Matt Ryan is on a tear. Calvin Ridley's on a tear. He has 4 total touchdowns this year already. So continue that trend. He's going to be, I believe, the preferred target over Julio. I like him better than Julio. He actually gets looks in the red zone. It could be because Julio gets double and triple teamed in the red zone, but still he's getting more looks. Adam Thielen finished third this week, 78 this current week. And man, that game was out of hand. The Colts had that game dominated from start to finish. So look for him to bounce back. I mean, Minnesota is going to be in some games, especially later on in the year. So he's going to continue to be a wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2. DeAndre Hopkins finished 4th last week, 9th this week. So we'll touch on him here in just a second. But he does get Detroit next week, and Detroit's secondary is worst in the league. Darius Slayton finished 5th last week, 74th this week. So top 5 guys, 71st, 1st, 78th, 9th, 74th. There's going to be a lot of changeover in the top rankings for receivers just because matchup-based injuries, game scripts, stuff like that. So you're going to see a lot of that. Robbie Anderson finished 6th last week and 8th this week. He does get the Chargers and a pretty stout secondary. I'm not as scared of him as I am with Tyreek Hill because he's not as fast, but he does have that game-breaking speed. Julio finished 7th last week, 93rd this week, so a bit rough for him. I feel bad for Julio. I mean, he dropped a touchdown, so they could have been a lot better, but he does have a lot of problems in the red zone because he doesn't get as much looks. Jamison Crowder finished 8th last week, was hurt this week, so he did not play. Juju Smith-Schuster finished 9th last week and 37th this week. Pretty much the Steelers ran the ball pretty much all day. They controlled the clock, so there wasn't much pass opportunities there. Russell Gage finished 10th last week, 19th this week, and Russell Gage is somebody that you should have on your waiver priorities. We'll talk about him here in a little bit, but he is killing it this year. Matt Ryan is sustaining 4 fantasy options. 4. It does come at a cost. Todd Gurley is losing a lot of work because they are passing the ball so damn much, but they do get Chicago next week, so we'll continue to see the passing flourish and the rush opportunities kind of go down. So weekly finishers, like I said, Calvin Ridley finished first. He does get Chicago next week, so continue the top 10 trends for him. Stephon Diggs finished second. He does get the Rams, so I don't like a top 1 or top 10 finish for him. More likely going to be I'm going to say 24 to 36 finish for him next week. Terry McLaurin finished third. He does get Cleveland next week. So, I mean, that matchup can go one of 2 ways. It's either going to be a 10-7 game, or it's going to be a 30 to 35 game. He is going to be a boomer bust wide receiver 2 next week. Mike Evans finished 4th. He's going to get Denver next week. His prevalence is going to be based off of Chris Godwin. Does Chris Godwin play next week or not? Because if he does play, look for him to slide down. If he doesn't play, look for him to be a top 10 finisher again next week. Deontay Johnson finished 5th this week. He does get Houston next week. Big Ben is back, so the receivers for Pittsburgh are actually going to do pretty well. It's going to be a likely shootout over there. I do like Juju to finish above him. They only scored 2 touchdowns in the air, so I like Juju's ability more than Deontay Johnson. He'll be more of a wide receiver 4, wide receiver 3, boomer bust type of guy. DJ Moore finished 6th. They do get the Chargers next week. I'm going to say it now. I'm going to say Robbie Anderson's going to finish ahead of him, so he'll be more of a low-end wide receiver 2, high-end wide receiver 3. Tyreek Hill finished 7th, does get Baltimore. He's going to be a top 10 guy more often than not. We have not seen that game just yet where he only has 3 points. So let's give him not a top 10, let's give him like a 12 to 20 finish for, so low end wide receiver 1 to high end wide receiver 2. Robbie Anderson will probably be a wide receiver 2. If he doesn't get a long touchdown, he's going to be one of those guys where it's either get a long touchdown or you're going to get, about 75 yards from him. DeAndre Hopkins finished 9th this week. He does get Detroit, so look for him to be probably the top finisher next week, because Detroit is just utterly, they're terrible. I don't know if they're worse or now the Jets are worse, but their secondary is god awful. So look for DeAndre Hopkins to continue his dominance over the league in his new home. 10th was CD Lamb. He did outscore all the other Cowboy receivers. He does get Seattle, so again, look for a shootout. So I like his route running and everything more than I like Michael Gallup or Amari Cooper. So let's give him, I like him as a wide receiver 1 again. So we'll give him wide receiver 1. Yeah, let's do that. All right, now on the tight end side, Dallas Goedert finished 1st last week, 24th this week. Mark Andrews 2nd last week, 29th this week. Noah Fant 3rd and finished 9th this week. Travis Kelce 4 for 4. I mean, he's going to be a top 5 guy pretty much all the time. Finished 4th last week, 4th this week. TJ Hawkinson 5th last week, 18th this week. I really thought that with Kenny Golladay being out again, he would get more looks, but I mean, Detroit, they Detroited, and yeah, they were just terrible today. David Njoku finished 6th last week. He's on the IR now, so we'll never see him on this list again for the rest of this week. So speedy recovery for that guy. Logan Thomas finished 7th last week, 25th this week. You should have this guy rostered. He's only rostered in about 20% of the leagues. He's only 2nd on the team in targets, behind Terry McLaurin. So he's going to be a good streamer. He's going to be, it's a tight end position, so he's going to be more often than not, he'll be wishy-washy. But 8 targets last week, 9 targets this week. The volume is there. The opportunities are there for this guy. Jonnu Smith last week finished 9th, finished 3rd this week. Jordan Howard 9th last week, 35th this week. Jared Cook finished 10th, and his outcome is still pending. Gesicki actually finished 1st this week against Buffalo. I do like him against Jacksonville next week, so look for him to be a very good streaming option for everybody. He actually beat out Higbee, who had 3 touchdowns. Higbee finished 2nd. He does get Buffalo next week, so look for Higbee to be right around that low-end tight end 1. Jonnu Smith, another top 10 finish for him. He gets Minnesota next week. Mo Alley Cox had 100 yards against them this week, so look for him to continue that dominance, especially if A.J. Brown continues to sit out with that knee injury. Travis Kelce finished 4th. They get Baltimore. Kelce's going to be a top 5 guy, not really need to spend much time on him. Jordan Reed finished 5th this week. They do get New York Giants next week, so his availability, his prevalence next week as well is going to be determined based off of George Kittle's availability. If Kittle plays, look for Reed to go back to irrelevance. If he doesn't play, look for him to be a really good streaming option against a pretty bad defense. 6th was Schultz from Dallas. Dalton Schultz, he did step up pretty well in Blake Jarwin's place. Again, shootout in Seattle is going to be a really good streaming option. Mo Alley Cox finished 7th. He got a lot of looks just because Jack Doyle was out. Look for that to continue if Jack Doyle sits, because their other tight end is not yet back from the PUP list. If Doyle plays, look for the looks to split between the two. If Doyle doesn't play, Mo Alley Cox again is going to be a really good streaming option. Hayden Hurst gets Chicago. He finished 8th. Again, Matt Ryan is spreading that ball around. He's going to be 4th on the team right now, behind the 3 receivers. So he's going to be more of a high-end tight end too. Noah Fant finished 9th this week. He also finished 3rd last week. So he gets Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay pretty susceptible to the tight end play. So look for him to continue his dominance, especially with Drew Lock out. They're going to be relying a lot on Fant and Jerry Judy had about 8 targets after Driscoll came in. Hunter Henry finished 10th this week. He does get Carolina next week. Carolina's defense is not all that good. They're going to be playing from behind, so especially if Herbert plays, Herbert's going to rely on the tight end, Hunter Henry, because all throughout camp they were saying how good this relationship was between Herbert and Hunter Henry. So look for that to continue down the road.
I'm LeBron James. No, I'm not. But I'm the king when it comes to sports betting. Bet Razor. RazorSport.com.
All right, guys, in a new segment that we have, Slumpbuster of the Week, a guy that had a terrible week this week that's going to do really well for you next week. Hashtag Bust That Slump. That's for all of our stuff. Sunday mornings, we do lineup assist. So look for those hashtags out there. Tag us and stuff. If you have questions, shoot us a DM. We will help you guys out. That's what we are here for. And this is going to be a little funny. It is what it is, but Devontae Adams is going to be my slump buster of the week. He finished 74th. He really didn't play much. He only had 3 targets in a likely shootout with New Orleans. In New Orleans, look for him to have a bounce back game, and hopefully you don't sit him because he is like for you this week. Play this man. He's going to get you some good points. Slump buster of the week, Devontae Adams. All right, guys, so we are rounding up the show. We're going to do these waiver wire assists because that's going to be popping this week, especially with all of the injuries that we've had this week. But first, we're going to start off with quarterbacks. Justin Herbert is going to be a waiver priority. You're going to be able to get him for almost $0, depending on what kind of league are you in. If you're in a 2-quarterback league, a super flex league, you might have to throw about $5 on him. But look for the reports for Tyrod Taylor. They are saying he's going to be the starter when he comes back. But, I mean, if you have a first-round pick, a top 6 pick, and you spend it on the quarterback, once he gets in, that's pretty much it. So we'll see, what it is. He had to go to the hospital, so we'll see. But Justin Herbert looked really good, 300 yards, 2 touchdowns. He did have 1 pick, which was definitely a rookie mistake, but look for him. And then Nick Mullins, if the ankle injury for Jimmy G is pretty bad, we'll see what's going on there. Running back-wise, Mike Davis for Christian McCaffrey. We don't know the extent of his injury. We'll know more on Monday when they have a MRI to determine how bad that ankle injury is. But if not, Mike Davis did take all of the reps after Christian McCaffrey went out, so look for him on the waiver priority. Darnell Henderson is going to be another popular ad. He took over for Cam Akers. He got hurt and out-touched Malcolm Brown, so he's the more dynamic back. The offense looked a lot better with him on the field. Tevin Coleman and Jerick McKinnon. Tevin Coleman's rostered in about 50% of the leagues. McKinnon's rostered in about 28% of the leagues. So pick up those 2 guys. I like McKinnon a little bit better. Definitely out-rushed and out-touched Coleman. But if you can get one of those 2 guys, go ahead and pick them up. Also, sneaky guy, Joshua Kelly for the Chargers. 2 double-digit weeks for him. He is the Melvin Gordon of this offense of last year. He is playing. He is getting opportunities. He does have some goal line work. So pick him up. You probably can get him for very cheap. So $5, even probably less, maybe 11 for your waivers. On the Giants, a lot of people are going to go for Deion Lewis, and that's okay if you go for Deion Lewis. But Wayne Gallman, he wasn't active for this week, so they played Deion Lewis. That's why Deion Lewis is going to be pushed pretty heavily on the waiver wire. But you're going to look like the smarter guy when you pick up Wayne Gallman. He was the starter last year whenever he went out, and he's not as good as Saquon Barkley. He's going to be up and down, but Wayne Gallman is going to be the guy in this backfield. Spend your money on Wayne Gallman, not Deion Lewis. All right, so receiver-wise, Russell Gage, he's just PPR monster right now. Matt Ryan is on a tear. Atlanta's on a tear. Fantasy-wise, not really game-wise. And then Michael Pittman Jr. for the Indianapolis Colts. Paris Campbell was carted off with a pretty nasty knee injury, so look for Pittman to kind of slide into that number 2 role where he was at before he got hurt. Tight end wise, these are going to be some pretty good streaming options for you guys this week. Gesicki gets Jacksonville. That's a pretty good matchup. Again, Jordan Reed, if if Kittle is out, look for him to continue to go. Schultz is going to be a good add. I probably wouldn't play him next week against Seattle, where Jamal Adams is going to be covering him for most of the game. Mo Alley Cox, again, if Jack Doyle is out, he's going to be pretty good. Sample from Cincinnati. Rookie quarterbacks love tight ends. He was peppering Uzama before he went out with a torn Achilles. And then Sample had a good, probably 5 or 6 catches. I don't remember off the top of my head. And then again, Logan Thomas for Washington, second on the team in targets, 8 targets last week, 9 targets this week. Opportunity is key in fantasy football, and he has a lot of opportunities. Defensive-wise, I like the Colts' defense against the Jets. Their offense is terrible. Their defense is terrible. So, yeah, it's just going to be a good matchup for the Colts. And then the Chargers against Carolina. Carolina might be out without their star running back. So that's going to lead to more passing opportunities for Carolina, or they're going to have to pass more because they don't have that running back. And then the Chargers DNs can pin their ears back and get to him. They did get a lot of pressure on Patty Mahomes today. So looking for that to continue next week against Carolina. So that's going to be it for me, guys, this week. We're going to be next week covering week 2 or week 3. Hopefully we don't have all these injuries like we had this week, because holy cow, that first half of the first slate of games was just injury after injury after injury. We never want to see that. So, hopefully speedy recovery to all those guys. Hopefully it's nothing terrible. They can all come back from it healthy. But that'll be it for us this week. Find us on all streaming platforms. You know where to find us on social media, Twitter, all that stuff. Look for all the content that we have out, rankings, power rankings. Hopefully you guys will be on this ride with us for this year, and we can get you that fantasy championship and bust your slump. Later.